Well, I know you want to know about the latest conditions outside right now, so let's check in with our team of meteorologists, starting with Chesley McNeil. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Jonathan and Aisha. Really appreciate that. We are looking at our 11 live weather impact alert lasting through Monday because of the slickness on the roads and the freezing rain that we're experiencing out there. And in some spots, it's just not accumulating on the roads. In other spots, we have it accumulating on the roads. So be very careful, folks. You got to be prepared for this because there's going to be slick spots, A. B, icicles falling down. C, there'll be power outages around our forecast area. And so that's what we're majorly concerned about with this. Now, take a look. This is in Athens now. And look at that. The roads are covered. Now, every now and again, you're going to see a car fly by here, acting as if there's nothing out here on the roads. But you can see how the roads are covered. We had Joe Ripley out there in this particular vicinity, which made me want to look at it. And I was able to zoom in. I can't really pan my camera to the right or the left. It's kind of frozen there a little bit, but did zoom it in just a little bit so you can see the difference on the roads. In fact, there's a little awning here over this Chick-fil-A, and you can see where there's bare pavement right there. And then just beyond that awning is where, excuse me. Yeah, looking at that cold weather, it just makes me want to sneeze, I guess, you know. We're looking at the streets now covered, all right? So very, very icy on the sidewalks. Even trying to navigate around in some spots is going to be very tricky. And if you go out there without a hat on, you may sneeze. All right, let's take a look here from, this is outside of our studios here. Our camera pointing down to the streets, it's I-85, and you can see where cars are getting around. The roads just look like they're wet so far. There may be some slickness out there, and I'm sure we're showing you this because we know these roads are elevated. You can see the bridge there, and under the bridge, you get that colder air that moves under that, and so these areas typically will freeze first. But you got numerous cars out there already, and it's starting to pick up a little bit. We're closer to the 6 o'clock hour. Hopefully, a lot of folks know that their church services, worship this morning at least, has been postponed or canceled. And so be very careful. If you don't have to go out, just don't do it. These may be emergency workers. People have to get to the hospitals and some of the other areas to get into work. Maybe that's what they're doing. Now, here's what's interesting. It has been coming down pretty steadily as freezing rain or sleet, maybe even a little bit of snow mixing in some spots up here to the north and east. I'd say from Atlanta northeastward over toward the Athens area has been coming down for a number of hours now. This started around the midnight hour, and here we are 6 hours later at 6 o'clock, and it's still coming down at a pretty decent clip as well. You can see where we had some of the moderate, heavy, we had the light to moderate rainfall coming down, continuing to push further off toward the northeast. And now we're starting to see that begin to come to an end where it's starting to taper off down here to the south, down toward Troop Meriwether counties. And so this is going to become not as widespread. A. B, it's going to start to see some holes in it where we're going to see scattered precipitation. So the steady freezing rain will come to an end here probably, I'd say in Atlanta, probably within the hour. So around 6:45, closer to 7 o'clock, a lot of that will start to have some holes in it. We'll have some scattered showers around, and then eventually that will make its way up toward the northeast. Now, we're not quite done with it. I think there's still more precipitation that's to be had, especially as a cold front gets a little bit closer to our area and we head into the afternoon. That front is forecast to move through the area by the time we get to noon, 1 o'clock. That's going to bring in some heavier rain. That heavy rain, if the cold air is still in place, means heavier freezing rain. We do think that will be the case further off here to the north and east, but if that wedge holds on, especially down here to the south, that means more accumulation for the metro area. So that's something we'll be watching out for. Our impacts map has been pushed a little bit further down to the south. We had a lot of red up here toward the northeast. That's coming a little bit further down toward the metro area, so something I have to watch out for. But again, sleet has been mixing in with a few of these areas where you see the white in here. That would indicate maybe some snow on the outside, but for the most part, it has been sleet and freezing rain or a mixture of both. We've been seeing it in Juneau for a couple hours now, over toward Canton as well, certainly up toward Clayton, Mossy Creek, down toward Commerce as well, down toward the Athens area, which is why showing you that shot, we have that coating that's on the roads there. And typically it's sleet that will collect on roads. Typically when you have ice, you can't really see it. It's like translucent. So, but as it thickens up, certainly you'll begin to see that. And so if it gets up to 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch, certainly that will be seen or at least visible on the roads. Now, you're not going to be able to just kick that out of the way or even trying to get a shovel in there to break that up. Really, you're going to need the sun to come out, and that radiational heating will begin to take place, and a lot of that will begin to melt. Now, it could refreeze once again. And unfortunately for us tomorrow or today, this afternoon, you're not going to see much in the way of sun. And I do think the precipitation will be with us as we head further into the afternoon and toward the evening as well. Even once that front moves through the area behind it, there'll be some light showers that will continue before it begins to dry out. Canton, Sugar Hill in northern Gwinnett County, Lawrenceville, down toward Redan and parts of DeKalb County, over toward Douglasville and Douglas County, parts of Paulding as well. You're experiencing some of this freezing rain up toward Ackworth, down toward Kennesaw as well. It's been coming down at a pretty decent clip pretty much all night long over into Cobb County. So Powder Springs, down through Austell, you're dealing with that freezing rain as well. Down toward Covington, over toward Monroe, the Athens area, which we just showed you not long ago. Elder, Jefferson, maybe some sleet mixing in with some of that freezing rain over your way. Then once you go further to the west, especially south and west, it becomes all rain. Our temperatures are warm enough to support the rain, and I don't think that wedge will get all the way down to the south and east of us, so we'll stay on the wet side in places further down to the south. Jasper, Putnam counties, Troop, Meriwether counties, that's what we're looking at here. And speaking of Jasper County, we've got reports of some trees down there and also some collection on the roadways as well, starting to accumulate there, so some patchy spots of ice around. And again, looking at this radar, again, we're starting to see this come to somewhat of an end, just with some scattered showers left over instead of the widespread steady rain that has been around pretty much through the evening. Temperature-wise, you can see those 20s out there, like Gainesville, Athens. We were in the 20s up here, and Clayton has come up just a little bit. Also in Blairsville, up to 36, 30 right now in Canton, 30 also in Marietta. You're below the freezing mark there, but right at the freezing mark in Atlanta. We've been holding steady right at 32, along with Carrollton, pretty much all morning long. That may be where we bottom out. Now, it's always the coldest before the sun begins to rise, and we won't see that until we get closer to 7:30 or closer to 8 o'clock, and so we may drop a degree or two, but then we'll watch that temperature begin to go up. We'll see how far it goes up, like how far the warm air starts to get in here, because we're expecting those temperatures to be near the 40-degree mark here in the metro area, maybe even some 50s down here to the south, where we could see some severe weather, meaning some of those thunderstorms could pack quite a punch as far as the wind speeds go. So that's something that we're watching for. We've been watching the road temperatures as well. For the most part, they have been above freezing. So you have temperatures, for example, on I-75 near Adairsville at 35, 34 the further north you go, up into places like Dalton, for example, at 34-degree temperature on the roads there. Below freezing up here on US 76, that's headed up into Rabun County, and then the 30 over into Beaufort County, Beaufort Highway rather, right along Highway 400 there. So continue to watch these temperatures as well, because as they drop down closer to freezing or below freezing, that's where you get even more of those patches popping up of ice on the roadways. We have an ice storm warning. Been telling you about this the last couple of days. It will last until Monday morning. Athens, Atlanta, over toward Rome, and we haven't seen much ice in Rome so far, but that could change, right? That could be extended over there. Some of these fringe areas, you're talking about 1/4 of an inch of ice, which could do a lot of damage, could cause some problems on the roadways and also to our power outages. Certainly down further to the south where we have the winter weather advisories, you're only talking about maybe a trace up to 1/10 of an inch of ice there. Okay, and we talked about the impacts by the amounts. 1/10 of an inch, of course, slickness on the roadways, along the railings, your patio, your back deck, you may be experiencing that. Some spots on the sidewalks as well, so walking becomes a little bit of a hazard, plus things falling. I can't stress that enough. You'll get ice falling down from some of the light fixtures or some of the awnings on the roofs, things like that. Definitely on the trees and on the power lines, it starts to accumulate at 1/10 of an inch. Once we get up to 1/4 of an inch, it becomes a little problematic for us, even trying to navigate around, of course. Really dangerous on the bridges. Some of the overpasses becomes a little bit difficult to navigate even on the roads, because you may be rolling along with just water on the roads, and then you hit a spot where it gets slick, and then boom, you get a spin out. Hopefully that's not going to happen. Hopefully you're going to stay off the roads at least. We'll be looking at trees and power lines starting to accumulate on those, so they start sagging down a little bit, or will start to break a little bit. And you could probably hear, if you were outside right now, you probably hear some of that crackling of the ice that's above our heads on the trees that are out there as that wind continues to blow. 1/2 an inch, you can forget about it, right? 1/2 an inch and higher, you're talking about crippling conditions, widespread tree and power line damage, looking at the roads, completely impassable, if not passable at all. You don't want to travel in half an inch of ice or greater. Power outages will be certain, and they could last for a long period of time, so you have to be on the lookout. It's not only over toward us, but this is a large system that stretches all the way up from Maine all the way back into New Mexico, folks. That pink area that you see are all winter storm warnings that are in effect, and so we have anywhere from freezing rain, which will be down here to the south where you see these purple areas here, all the way up to the north where you see snow. So places like Cincinnati, St. Louis dealing with the snow, certainly up towards Chicago as well. Here's a better look at it now. You can see that snow that extends, and you're talking about in these areas from Cincinnati down towards St. Louis, even into, well, just north of Memphis, into northern parts of Arkansas, easily 6 to 10 inches, maybe even higher in some spots. Once you get up toward D.C., you're talking about some very heavy snows. Up here, you're looking at 8, maybe 10 inches as well. Up into places like Philadelphia, Baltimore will be dealing with that as well. Now, that area of low pressure will continue to slide to the north, and it's drawing that warmer air further off to the north. And so places are already receiving the snow, for example, like D.C. and Baltimore. Eventually, this freezing rain will begin to move in, so you're going to get a coating on top of the snow, the fresh snow that you're going to have, and so that creates even more problems. Typically, when we talk about snow, it's easier to remove. You get a lot of traction in that, but if you add a layer of ice on top of that, all bets are off. And so that's what they're going to be experiencing up and down the eastern seaboard. So trying to get out of Atlanta, traveling up to the north will be very tricky, whether you're trying to drive out or even trying to fly out. A lot of those flights no doubt canceled. Even maybe traveling back off to the west, even into the Dallas area. Look at that. You got the snow that you have to deal with. The Memphis area as well, up towards St. Louis. You're dealing with the snow, folks. If you're going south, that may be a better bet. Maybe a better bet. Look at our impact map here, and it does show some extreme areas. That will be very isolated. When we talk about extreme areas, you're talking about inches of ice, right? Getting up there a little bit there. Once we get to an inch or more, you're talking about crippling effects, and so we have that in some spots. It'll be very isolated, but we do have that in some spots. You see the red there extends down through Hall County into Gwinnett County and northern parts of Forsyth County as well, into Cobb County and Cherokee County. We'll be looking at the high impacts. That red indicates very high impacts. That purple would indicate some extreme impacts. And then south of that, of course, we have the orange in there, which means medium impacts will be around from this ice that begins to form. Again, up to about 1/4 of an inch, and that's more widespread than those half inch and inches that we could see further off toward the north and east. Looking at even beyond the system, once it begins to push out of the area, we'll be looking at the colder air beginning to push in. And so whatever falls as far as rain goes, then we'll be looking at the potential for that refreeze to take effect. Let me walk you through the day here and let you know exactly what will be going on hour by hour as we continue to walk through the day. Now, we'll be watching for this precipitation to come to somewhat of an end, at least a steady precipitation coming to somewhat of an end. All right, now once that takes place, we'll just be seeing spotty our isolated showers around, and some of that could still be on the freezing side, of course, and so we'll have to be on the lookout for that. But as we look through the day today, I'm expecting this colder air to keep the freezing rain up here toward the, so let's say Rabun County all the way down through southern parts of Hall County, maybe into northern parts of Gwinnett County as well. The question that we have, and we'll be watching for the rest of the afternoon, is how long this wedge will hold on. We've been talking about the wedge, and what a wedge is where you get the colder air that dams up against the mountains there. So you got that layer of cold air toward the surface. The warmer air rises above it, which is why we are looking at freezing rain more so than snow here, because above our heads at least the atmosphere is a little bit warmer, so it comes down as liquid until it gets to the surface, and because we're below freezing or at freezing, that's where you get that ice starting to spread, or even some sleet coming down as well, or mixing in with that, and that could hold on, folks. Here we are at the 6 o'clock hour, and then as we head into the 7, 8 o'clock hour, notice how it becomes a little bit more isolated. So we're looking at isolated precipitation around, mainly in the form, again, of freezing rain up here toward the northeast. Even as that warmer air begins to push in and that area of low pressure moves to the north, you'll notice how that ice is holding on, again, from northern parts of Gwinnett County, extended all the way up into Rabun County. Here in the Atlanta metro area, we think we'll be warm enough that we'll get in on some of this heavy rain as it pushes through. A couple claps of thunder, certainly not out of the question, but more of the severe weather threat further down to the south, our southernmost towns, like down in Thomaston over toward LaGrange. That rain comes to an end after 5 or 6 o'clock tonight. We'll be left with the clouds, but our winds will change to more northwesterly, and that colder air will begin to push into the forecast area. We'll finally get some sunshine back in here, not on Sunday, but on Monday. But that's where we'll see some colder temperatures. High temperatures will only be near the freezing mark all day on Monday. Plus, with that wind, will make it feel much colder on your exposed skin. All right, guys, back to you.